Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Big Decisions for Anfield Index. It feels like about 86,000 years since the Reds played a football game, but they are back to it this week. And people shouldn't trivialise anything at all around this league title charge. People should, understandably, be a little bit worried or concerned around contract talks. People will have question marks around departures this summer. But one certainty is when you need the man to wingman this situation and talk it all through and bring a bit of calm, shall we say, or poise to the whole scenario, you need a touch of class at times. And that's why we call upon him, Mr. Trev Downey, fresh from, I'm hoping, because the weather's nice here, so fingers crossed for you. Has it been good gardening weather, Trev? Is that fair?
Yeah, man. The amateur farming is going ahead apace. All sorts of stuff getting planted. The self-sufficiency dream lives on, brother, and it's good weather to be out doing it. So yeah, that has taken my mind off that and the usual Downey family medical emergencies that never seem to go away have taken my mind off over the last while. I've been happy with this break, I'll be honest with you, especially the way it ended. The time leading up to it, because I couldn't get my head around the despondency, and more than anything else, I couldn't get my head around the idea of just the title. I know that winds you up as well, and so I think one message we're looking to get across, certainly in this opening part of the show, is like maybe sort of get a little bit of a grip on yourself about how you're talking about the reality of the Reds potentially winning a league title. And I'm still saying potentially because I don't like to do anything as a fait accompli. There's still a big chunk of work to be done. Until it's done, we won't be celebrating anything, but it is there to be done, and we're in a fantastic position to do it. And it just, look, a league title win, Dave, with the best will in the world, you're a younger man than me, and so you didn't have an era really where you were able to see regular league titles. This isn't exactly regular, but another one in 5 years will do me for now, and it's very exciting to look forward to it, man. And it's right there in front of us, several Sundays in a row now until we play Arsenal on a Saturday. And wouldn't it be wonderful if that was the day where we could put it to bed? I mean, I don't think it gets done ahead of that because I don't see Arsenal falling off a cliff to that extent. But wouldn't it be amazing if that was the decider, and we actually got our cup final? You know what I mean?
I'm actually, it's the bee in my bonnet, I would say, at the moment. And I want to give a bit of mitigation to people because I get, like you said, there's been results recently, and that Carabao, the Champions League defeat, that came in a week. And there's been such a long gap. This international break feels like it's gone on for eternity. I get that as mitigation, but you have to look where the noise of, it's just a title comes from, or the Liverpool were on for a quadruple. It's just mainstream media, absolute nonsense. Not one Liverpool fan has ever, that I've come across, been suggesting a quadruple was on the table. Yes, I get a little bit about the Carabao. People probably thought we would win that. And, that would add to the docket, to the trophy wall. But also you look at the other side of the narrative of, it's the weakest Premier League for a while. It's funny that when it's us at the top again, isn't it? How the Premier League's not as strong as it was, despite the teams in the middle, having some great players, some great results. The rest of the Premier League below the big ones has got stronger for me, no two ways about it. But this whole nonsense, Trev, it's just a title. It's never just a title, isn't it? I said to you before we started filming, I'd have sold a kidney to be here where we are right now at this stage. It's never just a title, is it?
Yeah, it's bizarre framing. And I know a lot of people are sort of in a paranoid camp where they believe that the media presents things as Liverpool bad. And I don't disparage that way of thinking about the world at all. It's just I can't afford to allow myself to be there all the time. But I do get it because it's so there's such mental gymnastics going on to get to a situation where you can print a headline like that, that Liverpool maybe have to be content with just the title. It's a remarkable way of framing reality, a reality which everyone else would be embracing the opportunity of winning a title with just the greatest excitement ever. Now, we have a sort of a poisoned atmosphere. The City thing has muddied the waters immensely. You know how I feel about that lot and how I feel about their achievement. And I've been forced to speak out of a grimacing face about, they have tremendous footballers and they've played great football, and fair play to him. He can really wrangle a good team into shape, and that's an amazing achievement, blah, blah, blah. And I detest every syllable, because part of me knows that there's hinky stuff going on there that's led to that. And part of me knows that in a different world, man, we have so many more trophies under Jurgen Klopp, and it just feels like a proper era. Now, it was an era, the Klopp thing. It absolutely was. We were hoping, you and I and several others in this channel, that would be an era that we build upon immediately. I don't think in our wildest dreams, Dave, we'd have thought immediately meant Arne winning the title straight out the bat, and he has a great chance to do that. The Carabao Cup can be whatever it is. If people can't put that in the box as a one-off against a team who are desperately hungry for it, I don't know what to say to you. Is it a bit of a worry that we weren't desperately hungry? Yeah, it is, Dave. It is worry. And on the back of the disappointment of going out of Europe, it's a double worry. And it made me, I said this to you, question, is there something awry in the camp? And that's my only concern about this run-in is, have things gone tits up within the group? And you can say that's paranoid in and of itself, and maybe it is. But I felt like that was the only thing that was concerning me. And if we can just hit the ground running against Everton now, I think this could be a really enjoyable run-in. It could be something we can knock a lot of fun out of.
Yeah, and you're right. It feels massive, this game. It almost gets to triggers it in motion. But you think, as you said, that I've never really had that sort of period of absolute glory. It was those down the East Lancs Road when I was growing up. That was the main side. And this to win, or potentially win, touch wood, a second title in such a short space. Thinking about the one we won it last time and the situation that everyone is it or was in at the time. We should just be reveling in this, shouldn't we, Trev? We should be soaking it all in, remembering these moments of what it could mean. It almost blocking out the mainstream, the background noise, but soaking everything into our pores, shouldn't we?
That's exactly it. That's kind of where I was trying to drive the bus a minute ago. You just put it better than I did, in terms of, if you can't enjoy this, then you have given in and you've allowed the mental gymnasts to actually exert their will over you. So stop being so weak-minded would be my advice to anyone who's in that. But stop allowing absolute gobshites in the mainstream media who have an agenda to keep the competition going, who have an agenda to push against whoever is the favorite at all times. Why would you allow that kind of thing to influence your thinking? As I said, we could be in a position, especially if we go out and win big or win convincingly against Everton, we could be in a position where we can revel in this run-in and in good form and one game a week and all that kind of thing. And it could be really, really good. There is also the potential for the wheels to come off, and anyone who says that that's not a possibility is equally deluded, because on the back of what we saw, everyone has their own theories, from fatigue, which some people sneer at, to something wrong in the camp, which other people sneer at, to we just peaked and now we're on the downslide, which other people sneer at. But you're allowed to have those concerns and still be optimistic. And I think a healthy way to be would be somewhere in the middle, because if you're already saying we haven't won, that could be a very uncomfortable couple of months for you ahead. But if you're writing it off and saying it's all over just because of a couple of bad performances back to back, again, have you seen this team? This team have found ways to win, different ways to win matches all throughout this season. To say that it's just going to end seems a little bit equally daft. And like I say, maybe buying into the narrative that the wheels have come off. I don't think that. I just would be worried that there might be a little bit of disgruntlement for all the reasons you and I have spoken about on different shows, particularly the transfer show, the contracts thing, the movement of certain players being touted very, very obviously, that could sour an atmosphere. So, yes, man, let's enjoy this. Let's absolutely look at the wonderful position that we are in with the amount of games that we have left. It's exciting. It's exciting. And if you can't be excited about this, then, it's probably not for you, because we have a chance to win the league. That's the ultimate. Like, I love the Champions League, man. You know that. But to win this league, it's such a superb achievement over time. And anyone who's telling you, it's going to be another one with an asterisk on it for whatever reason, anyone who's in that mindset, you know what they are. Don't even entertain that nonsense. Like, someone tried to say that to me live about the standard of the league, and I literally just smirked at him and walked away, because you know what they're doing. They're dangling bait. Don't bite.
Yeah. And in case, and we understand if there'll be a few bits of trepidation, it's almost like City have installed a PTSD in us from all the run-ins right to the end, possibly, and that just won't go away. But 9 to go, 12 clear. When you actually stack those fixtures as well, Trev, and for those that can't see on social media, I mean, Everton at home, Fulham away, then even that run, as you said, where we hit one a week, West Ham at home, Leicester away, Spurs at home in the next 5. They're not handpicked. I won't go that far, but it's a good set of fixtures to knock off the points needed. You would take those all day if someone lined them up, as well as the points total, wouldn't you?
You would have to. And listen, the thing about this team, and at most parts of the season until that last week where we had those very demoralizing back-to-back defeats, exiting Europe and losing a cup final, what you would have always said was, if our team shows up, no one's going to beat us. And why has that changed? That hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. There is the ultimate prize on the line. Do you think that Virgil van Dijk is going to allow some small little ructions in the camp or small little disgruntlements to derail him that Mo Salah is going to? We saw Mo doing his solo training there very recently. I mean, the guy's a machine, right? Tell me that guy doesn't want this league title. Come on, just let's have a little bit of proper clarification of our thought about this. If it doesn't happen, it won't be because that suddenly our players have gotten into a terrible mindset. Yes, I think that can happen short term. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like the Trent situation had a disruptive effect. Or I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of disgruntlement around the contract situation with the other two lads as well. But when there's a prize in the line, the lads can see it now. These are winners, Dave. These men are born winners. They have a target to hit. They have the minimum amount of points to get in those 9 games. And if they get it, they win the ultimate prize. Tell me you believe there's any chance they're not going to do it. I don't see it. So, I mean, I'm curious where you think we hit it. Where do we hit this thing, this target? And maybe you've got a handle on it than I do in terms of what the minimum is we need to win this league at this stage. Someone said to me it's 5 wins. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's a funny one because Arsenal, and everyone does mental gymnastics, as you put it quite rightly earlier. Arsenal are tracking this season at exactly 2 points a game. That's where they are. 29 played, 58 points. So if you look at Arsenal and think, right, suppose they just keep that average with 9 to go. That's 18 points, which, if you do a quick bit of mental arithmetic, takes you to 76. So if Arsenal keep on their average, Trev, we actually only need 7 points to win the league. Now, I'm not saying that will happen, but all these things play into it. I just think with a decent run of fixtures, and I think they are a decent run of fixtures, people will look. I mean, a derby's a derby. Anything can happen there, but we should be bang up for that revenge from the 2-2. Fulham just gone out the FA Cup. You do wonder a little bit, are they on flip-flop mode? Are they already looking at, their holidays in the beach and players doing 5-star all-inclusive to Dubai, hopefully. West Ham, I mean, they're definitely flip-flop mode. They're not going to go down. They're going to finish in the bottom. It's all about just rolling to the summer for them. So that's a good team. Leicester, I mean, they're horrendous. Let's be honest at the moment. They're absolutely horrendous. They've lost the last 5 in a row. And Spurs, you're also hoping there. They'll be in the Europa, the conference, won't they still? So their mind is completely on that. And Ange's mind, you'd hope, is completely on that if he's going to save his job or have any hope of doing it. That's just the game. I looked at Arsenal's fixtures. They're not bad. Maybe that's a bit of a too generic a phrase, but I just get the impression, Trev, that I can't get it out of my head when I start stacking where it will be, that Spurs game at home, that Sunday, the last one in April, we put enough points in the board. Wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal dropped a few, not many. That is the one I'm looking at. But then again, maybe, just maybe, that's a bit too optimistic, but believable at the same time.
I love that, and if it could be done at that stage, I'd be very delighted with that. I just keep looking at the bottom line. So Arsenal currently have 58 points. They have 9 games. If we go pessimistic and say they win all 9, that's 27 points. That's what, 85 total, right?
Yeah.
Which means that we are on 70. And we have to get 86, which means we need 16 points, which means we need 5 wins and a draw. In 5 wins and a draw in 9 games in a season where we've been beaten once in the league.
Yeah.
So that's it. This is where this is what I'm talking to you about with the likes of Virgil, the likes of Mo, the likes of Mac. It's there. This is what we need to do. Tick those boxes, and they'll be saying to themselves, the sooner we tick those boxes, the sooner we're on the sangria and celebrating. And so we could, 6 wins is Everton. Sorry, 5 wins and draws. Everton, Fulham, that's 2. West Ham, 3. Leicester's 4. What's up next after Leicester there? Spurs, that's 5. That's the 5 wins. And that's if Arsenal are perfect. So if Arsenal have dropped anything, we can win it there. And the rest of the season can go and take a run and jump. Although, I want 90 plus points.
Yeah, I know. And all this, people, for almost the final comment on this, because it's such a big week and it moves into it, you should be excited by it. Parked a little bit of the other stuff, but when the games come thick and fast, regardless of what the narrative is, be bigger than it. It's never just a title. It is everything for us. And if it happens, as we expect it will, we will celebrate royally. No 2 ways about it. Second topic, Trev. I don't think we're quite celebrating this one or these 3, maybe even more just now.
You got the video.
The big 3. Yeah, this never has a 2 or 3 second clip been played so much. So for those that can't see it and not view it on YouTube or wherever, probably caught it anyway. The shot at Trent's house, it looks like, where there's Ibu, Szoboszlai and Mo all sat round with Trent, looking like he's doing potentially some sort of explaining of whatever that may be. So conspiracy theories jump with this one naturally, Trev. And then they don't calm down today, where Trent rocks back into training and McAllister give them what many have labelled a death stare to Trent as he walks into the act. People pick it up different ways, but hey-oh, it's all part of the dance, as Brendan Rodgers would say. I mean, for these contracts, they're going to run simultaneously, this title charge and the contract questions, until they're signed, announced, or we know either way, aren't they? They're just going to run parallel.
Yeah, it seems as though we're going to have to just put this to bed. I think we came to a sensible conclusion, you and I, in the last transfer show, or the one before last, perhaps, which was, an agent is going to use every bit of leverage that an agent can to get the best possible deal for his client, and as a result, for himself. That's business. And it doesn't make any sense for anything to happen between now and the end of the season. It just doesn't make any sense. An agent wouldn't do that unless all of a sudden the club capitulates and goes, yeah, sure, boss, you can have whatever you want. But as long as there's wrangling going on or some sort of discussion or negotiation going on, there will be nothing, Dave. There will be nothing that comes out between now and the end of the season unless a league gets won or the club agree to do this or a player agrees to do that. There'll have to be some sort of movement that has not up till now been made. And I don't know why it would get made. It certainly won't come, you would imagine, from players saying, yeah, do you know what, that thing I was saying that I wanted, don't worry about it. I don't think that happens. So we may just kind of adjust our minds to the fact that it will remain up in the air. Like our last sequence of the show today is going to be talking about how much really is uncertain. I mean, we are heading into, people talk about the corridor of uncertainty. We're heading into a ballroom of uncertainty. It is insane, the amount that's up in the air. But just on this, the contracts and the talk won't go away. But I think it's very important for you and I and anyone else who wants to remain sort of mentally stable to actually make it go away. Because like I say, I don't see any sensible reason why anything would happen with it until a big thing happens. And by that, I mean until the league is hopefully secured, or until a player finally just says, you know what, this is going really badly, I want off. Or until the club says, you know what, you've won us a league, we're going to reward you now. Something like that. To think that it's just going to get solved in these weeks when we could really do some good news, that's not how it works. We could have done good news several times recently. It would have been really useful to announce that several times, and they didn't. They haven't, because it isn't done. So on that front, I don't see anything happening. But in terms of the bigger picture here, like will it affect us? You know, we know it. We know where we stand with everyone. With Mo and Virgil, I don't think there's anything comparatively recent from them, but they've been really clear. And Trent, by saying nothing, has been really clear. And you know, I love all these videos, man. I found myself analyzing them as well, and I can't make anything out of the one with no sound. And as for the Trent arriving in and having handshakes with everybody, I think again you're superimposing what you want to impose on it. Like, I saw someone who had the caption "Totes Orcs" on it, right? And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you buy into the fact that everyone's pissed off. Now, here there is one, man. I meant to mention this to you. Did you see the little clip where the lads were training and they're walking down the steps? And Darwin's behind Trent. And Darwin says something about Real Madrid. And Trent looks around quite awkwardly and kind of like makes a face and just walks on, not wanting to engage. Now, that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that was one was like, I remember I saw that and I was like, turn the volume up on the iPad as loud. Like, yeah. Type of thing, just to be clear. But yeah, it was, Trent has one of those moments. It's almost like in life when, you know, something's happened, like someone's dropped a tray of drinks next to you, but like, don't look, because it just makes it awkward for them now and awkward for me. So we kind of just like, yeah, it's not really been picked up by many places or too many on social media, but you're right. We are looking into all these things, and you can see what you want to see in these scenarios, can't you?
You can. And I suppose the main thing is, right, if we want to believe in these guys as characters, we're just going to have to go and say, right, it's not going to affect them, and hope that that's the case. Yeah. I mean, there's a reality where it might, but we're just going to have to hope it doesn't. In terms of whether it will have a massive impact if they don't get done next season, on the summer ahead, huge. Huge, like epoch definingly huge. To lose Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Mo Salah all in one sitting, that's fucking mental. And the rebuild there is it's insane. So yeah, but hopefully short term, and we're just focusing on the league. Let's get it done. I'm hoping the impact will be minimal.
Does it? Does it not say nothing's ever this simple? I know nothing's ever this simple, but there was a few outlets in Egypt picked it up, and people again, because we jump on everything, we're all looking at the stories. Ismail Mahmoud, a well-known journalist, said, "Yeah, the outlet that broke it is very reliable." That almost it felt like had a domino started a process, i.e., all the Trent stories. He's going to go to Real Madrid, right? In simplistic terms, Trent's wages are freed up, so that means we could now do the Mo deal, as in give him that little bit extra, smooth it over, get that compromised, etc. Everyone naturally thought the same because, as you said, we can't countenance the best defender in the world, arguably of his generation, going, wow, we've got him, because PSG are putting big money on the table, as we've heard. Like, there's a bit of cash for that and getting it done. In terms of the impact around the two, you said it there. I mean, tell me if I'm being too strong here. I think this is a very good squad, a squad that's going to win the league. You look at certain players within this squad and think, actually, bizarrely, even though we're going to win the league, you can easily upgrade on a few players. Just with small tweaks, actually, here and there, you can make this squad better quite easily in a few areas. Yes, you're probably going to countenance that Trent is going to depart. So I know that comes into the mix slightly as well. But with City and the way they are at the moment and just still getting almost back on a footing and all the other things that surround them, with Arsenal and Lego Head always just doing strange things. And I'm sure he's going to call in like Yuri Geller to bend Kai Havertz's back or something to help him for next season. God knows what's going to go on. But just in terms of with rivals doing their thing, does just keeping Salah and Van Dijk and a few tweaks, could this not equal a repeat, do you not feel? Do you think it's that big? Whereas if those two go, you just have such question marks against next season.
I think it's the only way we can be confident of a repeat. I think it's the only way we can be confident of another season where we're competitive for everything, is to keep those two guys. We're all pretty much consigned to resign to the fact that Trent is going, although I did notice there were people saying things along the lines of, well, nothing's done yet and who knows, but that just to me sounded like a little bit of guff. But with the other two, man, I mean, when you think about the amount of surgery that needs to be done across that front line, the idea that you would remove the best part of it, and it's voluntary, by the way. This is an elective procedure to lop off a limb.
Yeah.
You've decided to do this. And then you've decided, you know what would be good is if we balanced it up and lopped off a leg as well on the far side, just to kind of even up the thing. And then we can just proceed with our new bionic arms. Come on. I mean, it makes no sense. It's willful destruction of a squad. And you and I are enough of the old-fashioned fan to not really give a shit where they come up with the money from and not be that sad if someone is feeling the pinch a little bit or someone's a little bit embarrassed at having to pay out for these two players. Do you honestly think, Dave, there's a world where Virgil van Dijk doesn't have another couple of seasons quarterback in Liverpool to at least one more big pot in each season? Because I don't see that. Do you think Mo Salah is suddenly going to end production this season? Why then, if that's the case, why would we let anyone else have that? Who the hell would allow anyone else to have them? It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Makes absolutely none. And these are two of the greatest players in the world right now, arguably in their position of their generation, who are telling you they want to stay at Anfield as well. They just could not be any clearer. If there's anything that's pretty much certain, it's that Liverpool want to keep both these players. Liverpool fans, does the board or club? We're going to find out in the near future. And for the final bit, Trev, it's this word. What's as certain as can be this summer? Now, we talk about this all the time, and Andy Robertson, as you mentioned it, has given quotes. There's incoming links, there's Trent's contracts, outgoing, all those sorts of bits. And we always have the line on the transfer window. No one ever knows anything for definite. That's just literally, we speculate, we chat about various things, we share the info we get. But that question that's on the screen for those that can't see it, what's as certain as can be this summer? So I'm almost going to give you this in stages. Right now, who would you almost bet serious money on, thinking we suspect that's inevitable or highly likely, whatever phrase you wish to use, is heading for the departure door at the AXA?
I don't see a way where there's some sort of rehabilitation for Darwin Núñez. And Darwin Núñez is a man who could bring in a lot of money. I like Darwin, but he has to do it. And if he's not doing it, then he's up for grabs. And I think for an awful lot of people, whether they're fond of him or not, he's looking pretty much likely. Will also rattle in Trent into another certainty, because there isn't this much smoke without an actual fire. The lad wants to go. You know, it's as simple as that. We all saw the interviews he was doing with all sorts of people in recent years, talking about being the local lad and wanting to be captain of Liverpool, and where else is there's nothing else I could ever want in my career. And then we also see the interviews where he's talking about the fucking Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that lad's head has gotten turned at some point, and fine, off you go. And I'm not going to wish him well at Real Madrid. That's completely anathema to me. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Yeah. I don't want him to do well at Real Madrid. Am I grateful for Trent's contribution to Liverpool's era in recent terms? Absolutely. And he's been great to watch. And when we had him, he was the best in his position and all those kind of things. But if you're over, you're over. I think he's number 2. Much as I'd love to think that Fede Chiesa has rehabilitated himself, I don't see him being part of the plans going forward. And that's a shame. I think an awful lot of fans are almost in a way that's the polar opposite of Trent. They've been really, really enamored by Chiesa's attitude and application, and every time he gets an opportunity, he goes hell for leather, has about 18 shots in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But sadly, I think he's further off. Either Robbo or Tsimikas will also go, and I'm not sure. I'm of the opinion that if we get a very high-profile left full back in, that might push Robbo's buttons just enough. But he's a very proud man, and if he got the impression that he was going to be second fiddle, I don't think that goes over well with Robbo. I think, unlike maybe a lad who would hang around and play second fiddle or be inclined to do a Milner season, I think he would not. And I think he'd like to go off and be the main man, go and be captain of Celtic or something like that, whatever floats his boat. So I think it's probably likely to be Robbo if we get a high-profile left back. If we don't, if we get a high-profile right back, I'd say it could be Tsimikas. And then Tyler Morton's one of the young kids who's a saleable asset. I do think there's a fair chance that we might sell Harvey Elliott. And I say that not because it's in the news in the last couple of weeks, but because it's been in my head for the last couple of months. If he can't get any minutes, and I understand he was injured for a while, but when he's been available and he can't get into the team, and in the same way as Chiesa, I think he'll be thinking, you know, I need to play. I'm good. I'm a potential international footballer. If he's in the right team, maybe he suits that team even better than he does us. Yeah. So they'd be the bundle for me that would have a certain whiff of certainty around them. I think you might be of the opinion that Endo's in there as well, are you?
Yeah, it was. I wasn't until this morning, because funnily enough, we're going on a pre-season tour of Japan. That got announced, and that maybe doesn't look the best, does it? So I thought maybe timing's everything. Who knows? It can still get done at a later point. And people are linking us with players like Ekatike at Frankfurt, who are apparently interested in him. But I love Endo. I adore Endo. The gum shielding, tackle anything that moves. Your own player, anything. It gets headed, it gets kicked. I love the attitude. There's no doubting. Arne Slot's even singled him out on multiple occasions, like, this guy's brilliant. Love his attitude, does such a job. the one thing that you always talk about, you always hear, veteran players or players 32 as always talking about and up. I just want to play. I'm in the twilight years of my career. I just want to play. And we love him when he's on the field. But the one thing Wataru Endo is not doing is playing at the moment. The minutes don't lie. It's a stark fact how little he's used. So I just put him in that one. I do wonder this, as you said, the Robo Simicast thing. I think most people would naturally assume, and I get this, well, it'll be Simicast because he's second fiddle for Arne Slot, and Andy Robertson's played most of the season. That rotation seems to have been abandoned since Christmas time. I can get behind that logic. But like you, there's a lot of left backs linked, and there's some real strong whiffs around a few at the same time as well. You think back to a previous member of the leadership group who, upon being told that, listen, we're bringing in midfielders, you're probably going to drum right down the list here to a rotational option, didn't take it too well. Now, that does not mean for 1 second that Robbo is exactly going to do the same. It's the same set of circumstances, but it's a believable scenario, Trev. And like you, there's just a few I'm wondering, but I'm proper politicians answering it here as I'm whiffing back and forth. The second part I wanted to ask you almost was, you've given me your group that, I'd put money on. I fully suspect there's departing. Who's almost that second tier where you're thinking, I've got serious question marks over here, but William Hill, etc., you're not getting the deeds just yet. I'm not fully certain on
it. Yeah. Well, actually, Endo might be sort of straying between these two groups for me. I did hear a couple of rumors that there were a couple of German clubs willing to sort of make Endo a key piece of their summer recruitment. And you could see how going back to a league he's familiar with, a language he's familiar with, on the back of hopefully winning a high-profile trophy and being part of a high-profile squad for a couple of seasons might be something that, he might be ready to embrace and have a kind of glory days twilight in the Bundesliga or something like that. I could see that happening. One I could have easily pushed up into the top category as well was Luis Diaz, because in many ways I thought he was far more likely than Nunes, and then it was just a constant struggle for Nunes to find those goals that a centre forward needs to be able to find. That made me think, right, okay, well, he's actually now pretty much, I think, nailed on. And then we had the strong Saudi links. Now the Saudi links exist with Luis Diaz as well. But the Barca links are very strong too. Whether you believe them as much or not, he could be a very useful sort of I don't know, you wouldn't know what kind of smoke screens that lot are putting up or what they're planning. But I think Diaz is now sort of in that kind of category of, we have so much to change that maybe we give him another season. Although I think I'm right in saying, Dave, I'm like, just real quick, if we give him another season, we're in danger of doing a similarly silly contract thing with him too, aren't we? See, that's the problem.
2 years left to go in the summer, which always felt, especially under a Michael Edwards regime, it's now or never with what's happening.
Yeah. So we either extend him on money that he's happy with, and maybe that might be the decision that they make, given how many big changes are looking likely or possible. I think I had Harvey Elliott up in that top bracket in my head, but I think he's there in that middle ground again. He's another one who could maybe hang around because we can't do an overhaul of the entire squad. I think Joe Gomez is also between those two categories. In many ways, it should be fairly nailed on that he goes. He's a brilliant footballer who will probably want to be a first teamer for a couple of years somewhere. As he sees out his career. I'm not saying he's nearly over. He could play for another 10 years, but his injury record would suggest he won't have the longest career left. So I can see him going somewhere to be top dog. And of course, you and I have had many private discussions about the big lad between the sticks.
Yeah.
And with his new boy coming in to rival him from the start of the next season, Mamardashvili, I wonder about Alisson, because yet again, it's another one where could we make some decent wedge on moving on Alisson? And is that the kind of thing that's going to appeal to the people who run the club? Now, can we be very clear? Most of these names I mentioned, I don't want to see anywhere near the door.
No.
But we're talking about what we think is possible. And I think he's right in there in that maybe a year earlier than was advertised, primarily because we are doing quite well, man, in the goalkeeping department.
Yeah.
And I could see both Ali and Queeveen on their bikes this summer. And I think that'll unsettle a lot of people. And it's very much going to be then reliant on Mamardashvili hitting the ground running. But it does seem to be one of those summers, buddy. It seems to be one of those summers where we're all in here. You know, it's like push all the chips in there.
Yeah, it's push all the chips in, and it does feel like a massive shuffle of the deck. I mean, Ivan's even put there as well in the chat. So he's been linked to Real Madrid. I hope they're looking at Canate. I mean, yeah, as he might be running that contract down. That Jota is also in that 2-year or less category in the summer. It does just feel like so much can happen. There's never felt that it's that contrast, a good word, the juxtaposition of we're going to win the title and we should feel strong in that sense. But there is a question mark with varying strength against a majority of the squad, it's fair to say. And you're just wondering what could be or who could be heading for the exit door. I suppose the other side to that, and it was interesting even today, is who might be coming in and who you feel strong of. Yeah, this is a solid link. There's no smoke without fire. This isn't going away. Isak's been mentioned a number of times, and we've talked about him. It's funny, the Times comes with a big story today, doesn't it, to say Milos Kerkez will not be sold for less than 45 million for Bournemouth, and they wouldn't take part exchange offers. And funnily enough, Queven Kelleher gets mentioned in that article at the same time as well and is linked with Liverpool. I mean, I asked you what's as certain as can be this summer in sort of your gut for who will depart. Who is it the other way? Who are you thinking I would not bet a penny against them doing the Axeline?
I think that's a far less predictable category. There was some stories going around today which seem to be distancing Isak from Arsenal for various reasons. So then you start to look at his options, and if he's serious about wanting Champions League football, his options are getting smaller, and maybe the mad thing happens and we decide to go big in on this kid. And it's just because it's such a relentless rumor. I still think it's too daft financially for us to ever really consider it. So it's one of those ones that I haven't allowed myself to believe. And there's no real rival. Yokerez was a lad that we were linked with earlier on. Now Arsenal fans are convinced he's absolutely going to them. But there are no other really jumping out at me that won't go away links. Jonathan David was being linked today as well. But it's just, I find it hard to find anyone in that forward category. And especially you were right there to mention Jota, who, if Nunes had done it this season, he'd definitely be going. He would be on his bike this summer. There's no two ways about it. If Nunes was doing the business, Jota would not be here next season. So there's even more unsettling. I think the one that's likely to happen is the one that you mentioned, is Kerkez. Because there's just so much there by way of him already being Premier League proven, him being a kind of a certain type of profile where he has that physicality. He does look like a bit of a barrel there heading down the wing at times, and he seems to have, if not the peak Robbo end product in terms of the crossing, an ability to get it into that danger area. Now, I've yet to hear any great detail or pronunciations on what he's like as a defensive fullback. So that's interesting. But I think of all the ones that we're hearing, the one that's probably the most likely is that one, because I can see us pulling a few strokes with a player part exchange there with that club, a player that would do a great job for them. I mean, maybe even a Joe Gomez. You know what I'm saying? Is
Yeah.
there a way there that a deal like that could be done? I don't know. But I'm just thinking that's the most likely. Do you have anyone that you're sort of hanging your hat on you think is pretty much nailed on?
It's the absolute contradiction is for the info obviously we do the transfer show, we talk through the info we get and the bits. I think a lot of people can build the shortlist almost, especially with the number 9, can't they? Like Isaac, Isaac, can you do it? All the question marks there. Alvarez, another that they clearly like, but whether they can do that, it's just the chasm feels vast for those two. Ekitike is the latest one that is quite clear they like. Kuna's come up. Liverpool are clearly looking at a lot of number 9s or people that can play that position, whether you class them as a 9.5, a 10, whatever, someone who can sort of lead that forward line in different ways. There's zero doubt on that. And yet, because there's zero doubt on the multitude of names, that means you wouldn't put any coin on anyone seriously, would you? There's just question marks because of the list in that sense.
What do you think about the ones that are being linked via the sort of, these are beloved of the nerds, right? The ones that have been scouted within an inch of their life. You get the impression that Martin Fernandez is one of those. You get the impression that who's the other guys, that Amora might be one of those as well. I mean, maybe we should just see the wood for the trees and think, well, okay, they're probably the most likely, if we're being perfectly honest. The ones that have the underlying numbers and the youth on their side and all that kind of thing. Maybe they're the ones that we should be going on. It would be completely unsurprising if we go for them. And it would be a little bit underwhelming for an awful lot of Reds fans. But we said that about Mo Salah. We said that about Sadio Mane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people didn't expect Virgil van Dijk to be the success he was. Most people thought that Fabinho would come in and do a job, but they wouldn't have seen him being the best holding midfielder in the world for a couple of years back to back. So we got to maybe trust these people to do their job.
It's a fair point. And that question, so what's as certain as can be this summer, for me, however people wish to phrase it, I would be astonished if there isn't a nerd-based signing. Because if there's not a nerd-based signing, what the hell was the point of going back to all this model with Michael Edwards overseeing it all and all the people in the different roles and Julian Ward coming back and Spearman and all the cogs that go into that machine? If you aren't going to trust these people to make or suggest those types of signing and back them, what was the point really in the nicest way? Because in other words, let's be honest, Trev, me and you can say, do you know what, lads? Alexander Isak and Julian Alvarez, they're really good forwards, I think you should sign them. We can all watch football to an extent. So, yeah, for me, in all honesty, a nerd-based signing, I'll use that title, will be made at some point this summer. Otherwise, I think we're all just a bit lost of what the point is in this structure somewhat. So we'll see what develops there. The only final bit for what's as certain as can be this summer, and this is a loaded question, I appreciate as I ask it you now. Is it going to be a busy summer, quote unquote?
I don't see any way around that. There are too many people in that squad that have question marks around them. And it's mad to be saying that when we're marching towards, hopefully, title number 20 in the club's history. And maybe the title win, if and when it comes about, will have a real impact, maybe in terms of hardening the concept of people's desires to stay or go, or the club's desires to keep or release. But for now, it seems like there's never been so much doubt about the squad. And what we have to remember is we're talking here about very good footballers. That is the thing about it. We're not talking about crap footballers that we can't wait to get out the door. The Darwin thing has been a disappointment, but he's still a good footballer who will do a job for someone else. I find myself a little bit excited by the possibilities of what could happen. Right. So, yeah, we all get excited about Isak, but I'll be honest with you. I think I'd love to see Alvarez come in. That's the one for me. If we were to do some mad joke over the summer, that'll be the one I'd love us to do. And the other one I'd love us to do is at last to do the job that we've been trying to do for a couple of years, and maybe see, could we get a disgruntled Tchouaméni in, or maybe see, can we do some sort of a deal with Tony Bloom where he doesn't completely fleece us for Baliba? Something like that. They're the kind of types of signing that I want. Plug and play, top end, immediate first team class types that have potential to be there for a few years. That's exciting to me. That's what I'm really hoping will be happening in the summer. And that's the reason I do think it will be a brilliant one for us and for our show, is because I don't think there's ever been so many question marks about so many individual members of a squad. Forget the context of the league or the potential league win. Forget it all. Just the reality currently is lads on contracts, lads needing to have renewals or they'll be there next year, lads who are not getting game time. And all of them are good lads that we love, and all of them have big question marks in their head. So I don't see how it's anything but a massive summer, man.
Yeah, it does just feel that way. And you might think differently, people, but if you can bring the evidence to the contrary, we're really struggling to see it right now. What will be. So there you go. Remember, it is never just a title. Savor every minute on this run-in. It's absolutely brilliant. At the same time, it's understandable. We've all got the contract questions. There's worries about the two going and what that may mean for the ultimate future. One probably departs, other squad members to be signed up. We get it all, but it still favours in on that league. And then the third thing, once that league is won, touch wood, we never count our chickens, but we are so hopeful. We all feel it's going to be a busy, mad summer ahead, and we are looking forward to walking it through with you every step of the way. But enjoying every step of this and enjoying the chat as ever. All it leaves me to say is, Trev, for the insight, the honesty, and answering everything I threw at you in great depth. It is much appreciated, sir.
Appreciate it, brother. Do me one favor in the promo for this. Please don't do a Studio Ghibli version of the two of us, because I can't take any more of that crap. But yeah, an enjoyable one as ever, brother. Talk to you soon.
Will do. And ladies and gents, that was another Big Decisions